Yo, what is up? It's your boy Sterls for the girls, and we are back with another episode of Intentional Grounding. Yes, sir, we are back for the 2023-2024 season. And we got so much to talk about this year. I even have a very special guest and good friend of mine that's going to be joining me on the show tonight. We're going to talk to Bill. We're going to get into some little personal stuff. If you are listening, thank you and welcome to the Buffalo Rumblings podcast tonight. Again, I'm your boy, Sterls for the girls. Got to pay the bills real quick. This show is brought to you by Spider Chef. We're going to help you reach what matters. If you have a home improvement project that involves shelving, make sure you see my guys at Spider Chef. Enter the code Intentional Grounding and you'll get 20% off of your order. Spider Chef, where they help you reach what matters. There it is. There we go. We back in this thing. What is up? What is up? What is up? Thank you for all of you guys who are watching. As you can see, I've kind of upgraded my stuff. I've upgraded my stuff this year. So, you gotta step your game up sometimes. And I've been doing this podcast thing for quite some time. Like 7 years. So I've taken my gear seriously. So welcome to the new look. Welcome to the new look. But I'm excited to have you guys here tonight. Let's see who's up in the chat. Okay, we're gonna see who's in the chat. If you're watching the show, give me a little comment in the comment section. But without further ado, I'm gonna introduce my guest here. So I've known Rob for 5, 6, 7 years now, and we watch games together at downtown at Jackson's, the Buffalo Bills backers bar. We got my guy Anthony Marino. What's good? What's good, my guy? And he busts my balls all the time, like for everything, and I love him to death. Like I love this dude. He's hilarious. We cry, we cheer. Our Bills backers club is pretty deep. It's pretty intimate. I ain't gonna lie, but I got him on the show. He's gonna be joining me from time to time this season. So I want you guys to make him feel welcome. But without further ado, here's Rob. Rob, what is up, my friend? How you doing?
Sterls for the girls, man. I'm thrilled to finally be doing. We talked about doing this for so long. I'm thrilled and honored to finally be on your podcast here.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, and that's my fault. I don't do a lot of guests, and that's probably why I haven't had you on. But I'm gonna start having you on. I'm gonna start having more guests.
Because you don't need to. You don't.
No, I do. I need it. I need all the guests. Rob, for those of you who don't know, Rob actually he's a real radio guy. I'm just a wannabe. I'm a fake guy, but that's his job. That's his 9 to 5. He works for Altitude Sports. Rob, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I work for Altitude Sports Radio. I'm a fill-in for them, so I'm all over the time card in terms of when I'm on air. But fill in for them all the time, talking all your Denver sports, and have to defend my Bills fandom and the Mafia on a regular basis. But man, this is real radio. Don't be acting like you ain't making a living out here. We know.
Nah, Buffalo Rumblings is where it's at, man. It's been good to me. I love it here, and I'm excited about this season, man. Doing content here, it's gonna be dope. Like this summer, so I haven't completely been not podcasting. I just haven't been doing my own show, but I've been doing the Chop Up with Jay Spence and Jeremiah Poyer, or Jeremy. We've been doing that this past summer, so it's been real good. Been doing a lot of fishing. I even went fishing this morning.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I know. I picked up fishing during COVID, and I'm a rookie fisherman. But I be catching some bass now. That's my thing, dude. Yeah.
Did we get something this morning, or
come
back empty-handed?
No, I never come back empty-handed. I always get like yesterday. I went yesterday too. So there's this pond I go to. I can't put it out there because the people will go to it. But there's bass and there's bluegill and there's crappie, and I just be out there killing them, slaying them. So that's my thing, right? So if I'm not in the streets, I'm out by a pond near you fishing. But John comes in with the first question. He says, "Did you watch the red and blue game?" I know I didn't watch it. I don't even think I had a way to watch it. Did you? Did you watch it?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, I
I,
was scouring Twitter the whole time.
I was gonna say I was seeing highlights. Don't get me
Sure.
wrong, but as far as like actually sitting and watching it, but they put those guys in weird situations on purpose and try to put them in game type scenarios. But it's not like an actual game. Like you don't have to watch the thing beginning to end. So
Okay, so before we get into the red and blue game or our takeaways from it or what we've heard or read, because you're kind of close to, you're not a Broncos insider, but you get information, okay, because of the line of work you do. And as we were behind the scenes before we went live, I said, hey, let's talk about this Sean Payton thing because I think it's pretty interesting. So let's do it because you got information, right? And so my whole subtitle of this was Sean Payton throwing shade. So for those of you who don't know, Nathaniel Hackett was the head coach of the Denver Broncos last season, and it was atrocious. It was bad on a lot of accounts. And Nathaniel Hackett didn't even make it the entire season, right? So you get Sean Payton, and for someone of Sean Payton's stature, he's been a great head coach for a very long time with the New Orleans Saints. But he's had his share of character run-ins as well. So it's like the pot calling the kettle black. But what have you heard? Broncos related in terms of Nathaniel Hackett's departure, and kind of, I don't know if you could shed some light on what's been going on, what's kind of going on right now.
well, the first thing I'd say is, yeah, Sean Payton has had character issues, but he also won. And it kind of is the difference between Hackett and him.
Mm-hmm.
If McManus hits that 64-yard field goal in that Monday night opener against Seattle,
Oh, I remember
right?
that.
And they put up, I think they would have had 30 points maybe in that game then, or 27, something like that. And they get a win on Monday night. The whole season could be different.
Right.
And instead, what ends up happening is he loses a couple really close games. That Indianapolis game, that Thursday nighter that nobody could watch. People were leaving for overtime. It was boring, yes. But if they had pulled it out at the end and won that game, and Hackett had a little bit of success, I think most of the stuff that he went through last year would have gone, I don't know, unnoticed. So in comes Payton, and I feel like, and I've heard from people that those shots that he took at Hackett were a little bit coordinated. You know what I mean? Like,
really?
Yeah, like you don't think he just popped off and said that, do you? Come on.
Okay, so let me. Okay, so like I'm thinking, like, why? Like, what's the purpose of that? Because if anything, when you make a comment like that, it kind of puts you in the spotlight and the expectations, because you're saying I can do just a much better job. And you don't really hear coaches like with a lot of bravado out in the public eye or in a press conference settings. But man, it's like, I understand he's won a Super Bowl, he's got a great track record, but do you really need to do that? Like, because the NFL coaching scene is a bunch of retreads. Like, they promote from within, and it's the same guys that get the same jobs. And every now and then you have the new hotshot candidate coordinator or whatever, and that just seemed real odd to me.
So I think it did two things. One, it put the team on notice, granted through the media, but it put the team on notice that, hey, listen, there's going to be a different camp. Everything that we are going to do is going to look different, feel different, sound different. And it's going to make for a different environment. So one, you put everybody on notice right away. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Two, I think it gives that team a little bit of confidence. And here's how. It gives them confidence in the sense that it wasn't your fault. That was the worst coaching job that I've ever seen in the NFL last year. You winning 5 games last season, it wasn't because of your talent level. It was because you were being coached poorly. You were being put in bad situations, all that kind of stuff. And so in this weird way, it provides this level of confidence for your guys of like, it's going to be totally different now. I'm coming in. We're going to have this on lockdown. You know what I mean? Like, we're not messing around anymore. And I think it provides this level of confidence of, you're not a 5-win team. It was the coaching job that did it. Now, I think what he did do is when he popped off, he also kind of mentioned management and ownership, and I don't think he meant to do that. And I think that's what got him in trouble. I think he calculated doing that about the coaching, but when he threw in kind of the front office staff, I think he got a phone call from upstairs that said, "You need to go walk that back." You know what I mean? So
I mean, right. We're talking on the chop up this past week, and I was like, man, like you got owners like Condoleezza Rice and the Walton family, and like these are some pretty upstanding individuals from the public eye, right? And you look at the Broncos win-loss total; they were 5-12. They were 4-4 at home, 1-8 on the road, I believe. They had a ton of close, like one score games. I think they're 4-9 in those games, decided by a field goal or less. So it's not like they were University of Colorado where they were getting blown out by 29 points a game, right? They were competitive in a sense, and they were 0-3 in overtime games.
And the craziest stat about them, and I don't know it exactly, but I'll shout out my guys at DNVR who do great work, and they're the ones that originally put it out. If they scored 18 points in every game that season, they're like 11-6 or something like that. Like, it was that their defense played great. There's really good players on that team. They just couldn't score.
So, and that's sad. Because you got Russ Wilson, right?
They're a better team than 5 wins. Now, is Russell Wilson washed? But they're a better team than 5 wins.
I agree with that. And Javonte Williams went down. They have a ton of injuries. Tim Patrick, who's now torn his ACL or something. He's torn something. He's out for the season again. Achilles this time.
He went back-to-back ACL and Achilles, which is just
that's tough. That might end his career. That's tough. That's tough, but prayers, shout out to Tim Patrick, man. I hope he's well. But, yeah, we're going to be monitoring the Broncos closely this season. I mean, we always do anyway just because they're the home team. But I got Javonte Williams on my fantasy team in our Buffalo Rumblers League. So I need him to produce. I loved him coming out of North Carolina. But, if you get any information, because I'm going to have you on here quite a bit, so I just need you to drop that information. But, hey, shout out to my guy, Jay Spencer King. He's up in here. He's running the vidcast feed here. Rumblers is doing a fantastic job. So give Spence some love. What's up, Tracy? How you doing? She says Spence. I don't know if she's referring to Jay Spence or she's saying that I'm Jay Spence. I don't know, but hi, Tracy. What's up? Okay, so there's when you read information and you talk to people who love the game of football in the NFL, you're hearing a lot of the Bills won't win the division. You're hearing a lot of love for the New York Jets, which is warranted, although they haven't played a down of significance yet. You have a lot of love for the Miami Dolphins, who got Jalen Ramsey, and now he's out for till the end of the season, pretty much till December. But still, like the gravy train and the hype train hasn't stopped for those other teams, and we have the Bills sitting here, and everybody's kind of just passing them over. They kings of not clutch. Or insert any insult to the Bills that you want that you're hearing from people. And Josh Allen is, I've heard people say Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback. There's an argument for Joe Burrow. I mean, Josh Allen, just all these turnovers and they miss the production that he has. But what are you hearing or what are you feeling about expectations for the season?
It's really honestly crazy, man. Like, here's the thing. Last year, they went 4-2 in the division. At best, do you think any of the teams in the division can sweep them? Because I don't.
No.
Okay, so the Dolphins split last year, and they still ended up with 10 wins and as the 7th seed.
Yeah.
The Jets split last year, and they still won, 5 games, 6 games?
Yeah.
So you got your... Yeah, you got, like, if you asked a Jets fan right now, would you take a split with the Bills this year? They'd absolutely say yes. Right?
Yeah.
And so you have to improve by winning 7 other games that are on your schedule. I mean, I know the hot take is to say that the Bills are done and Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and win the division and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it in actuality, last year, they got what they wanted. They both won their home games against the Bills, and they still finished 3 and 6 games behind them, respectively.
Right.
So where are you making up all this ground that I'm missing? Like, have you looked at the Jets' first 4 games? It's like
It's
Buffalo,
brutal.
Kansas City. Oh, it's brutal. It's not until they play the Broncos do they even have like an okay game. I think the Patriots are in there, which, you can decide if you like the Broncos or Patriots better to beat them. But like their first 4 games are brutal. So I want to know where all these people that are picking everybody else, where are they making up all these games? Do you think the Bills are going to fall back to the back? I
Yeah,
just don't know.
and that's the thing that really is irritating. At the same time, it's like, great, I want you guys to sleep on the Bills because I think they're going to surprise people. I'm not look. Well, I don't even know. Surprise, I guess surprise. Let me take that back because surprise would be to get to the Super Bowl, right? So we know that they're a Super Bowl caliber team. But I think that the Bills are playing a really tough schedule this year, right? So I expect the Bills to split with the Jets and split with the Dolphins. I think that's fair. And then I think the rest of it, I think, and as far as the AFC East goes, I think we're going to be fine. The AFC West will be tough, and you know, listen, I just feel like people got to stop sleeping on the Bills. I feel like when you look at it offensively, okay, the Bills are in the best position offensively that I think they've been in quite some time. We could talk about that 2020 team or 2021 season with Emmanuel Sanders. That offense was humming, and even last year they were, pretty much top 3 in the league in a lot of categories. But the emergence of Dalton Kincaid being a rookie, James Cook in his second year, you're going to have an improved offensive line, which that's something we've been pounding the table for quite some time. But they're actually on paper, they should be better. I would like to see Aaron Cromer take another step with these guys this year, but the injuries is what killed him last year, right? It was a ton of injuries and a lot of exterior things that took place that happened. But I feel like the expectation needs to be just like it as it was last year. The Bills are a Super Bowl caliber squad. Now I don't know where you land on that, because we're pretty critical of the Bills at times because that's just how we're analytical brains. But like, how do you feel like they're going to fare? Not in the division, but let's just say seeding in the AFC.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So I think they definitely do win the division. And so that automatically drops you into one of the top 4 seeds. And not to get too crunchy on the schedule, but we've got the AFC West as our crossover this year,
Right,
which means that the AFC North is one of the where you play your same place finisher, and all the way down the AFC North, like, man, the Jets got the Browns. The Browns could jump up and be as good as the Jets this year if
Sure.
Deshaun Watson gets back to what he was doing. All his off the field stuff aside, you know what I mean? So like, I think that they are likely to win the division, which puts you in one of those top 4 seeds. Mm-hmm. From there, it's going to be a real question to me of how McDermott runs this offense or this defense, because we've never really seen him coordinate a Bills defense before. Sure, he's had his hands all over it, but now it's just going to be him calling it. And Micah Hyde, the first week of camp was like, hey, man, it's way more aggressive. And it might be. The D-line's solid. I think you're going to see a lot more dime. I think you're going to see a lot more one linebacker sets with Milano.
Sure.
That's just my thought on it. You put Saran Neal in there, you make it a big dime. So you have Poyer can walk down into the box. So you have these guys who are playing safety, who are kind of linebackers, but not really. So, how aggressive is he going to get on the defense? Because if you do, then I think you can affect the great quarterbacks that are in the AFC. And I think that's going to – everybody's been playing safe for so many years. They've been playing the cover 2 shell, dropping back. I think if you attack them a little bit differently, it'll be boom or bust. But I think the defense can be good in a different way this year, and I still think they fight for that number 1 seed. I think they should have had the number 1 seed last year, personally.
Yeah. They should have had the number 1 seed last year. But I think the interesting point out of all of that, that great commentary you had, was how aggressive will this defense be under Sean McDermott? Because, man, I think at times, during Leslie Frazier's great run here as a defensive coordinator, man, it just like it lacked like we were good statistically, but I felt like, man, we lacked punch. Like when we needed the defense the most, we didn't get it. Like, I always tell, you and I have had this conversation at the bar, but I'm like, what does Sean McDermott, like, what edge does Sean McDermott give you on game day? Like, what edge? And now it's funny and it's weird at the same time. It's like, okay, this is Sean. We've heard for a long time that this was Sean McDermott's defense, right? But why now it's just all of a sudden more aggressive now? So was it just Leslie Frazier's defense? Sean McDermott was like, you know what, Leslie, I'm gonna let you do your thing, call it how you want it. It's your baby. But now we're just gonna turn up the pressure. I mean, so it's like, yeah, like I want to believe it, but I got to see it first. I need to see that this defense can really take down a quarterback, take away their best option, right?
But
that's
Sterls,
the thing I want to see.
I don't want to step on your last topic too much, but like defensive line was good enough last year for him to sit back at the beginning. And by the time we got to the end of the year, the defensive line was no longer good enough for you to sit back in that cover two shell and still get pressure. So isn't it all about how much pressure that you can generate this year?
Yeah, it has to be. And we can talk about this right now. So my question, we're talking is, can the Bills really rely on the defensive line this season? So, kind of give this some scope. I mean, I think most fans out there can point to a few games where you feel like, okay, the defensive line, like, where were you? So the Cincinnati Bengals game was one of, that was the last one, obviously, where the defensive line didn't show up. Now we could talk about injuries or whatever, but you still had Ed Oliver, you still had Greg Rousseau, and you didn't do anything. Now you were missing Daquan Jones, Von Miller, but still, like, we just saw Ed Oliver get a handsome contract. Greg Rousseau is going to get paid the bag. So those are the kind of players that, like, you see them in crunch time. I need you to be there. And we haven't seen the Bills defensive line really kind of be like dominant.
Haven't we? Come on, man. We were sitting watching that LA game together. Like that, okay. The Tennessee game, like when they were healthy, that front of that defensive line was absolutely terrorizing everybody. And then Phillips hurt his shoulder, and Settle missed a couple games. Vaughn tears an ACL. Ed's got something going on all season that we don't really know what it was, but he wasn't 100%.
Right.
And I know that's football. It's what happens. Like
sure. Right,
so
right.
You got to just deal with it and still win. But that defensive line, when they're healthy, they were destroying people with a 4-man rush.
Yeah. But, but the caveat on that, right, play devil's advocate, like this is where they talked about all this depth that they had, right? So they were dependent on guys like A.J. Epinesa, who had a decent season with 6.5 sacks, Boogie Basham in year 2. You had Shaq Lawson and, and it just, man, I don't know if you, but like for the last 3 seasons, we've talked about, I've hyped up this defensive line saying that it's going to be better this year. They're going to be dominant, right? They beat the Rams in week 1. Tannehill's really not a threat to me. I'm not so it's week 2 is whatever, but like I need this defensive line, particularly when it matters most. Maybe they got to show up. Like even without Vaughn, you have to produce.
How do you feel like they played against the Chiefs last year? Because I thought they had a pretty good game against the Chiefs last year.
With Vaughn, they did, but I still feel like, and I don't expect them to be perfect, but there was still some contained bust, and it's like I expected Ed Oliver to have this. I was pumping like, yo, Ed Oliver's gonna have a breakout season, like he got injured or whatever, but it's like, man. Yeah. It's like he's good, but it's like the 9th overall pick. I need to see more impact on games. And it's missing. We don't have that punch.
No doubt. You definitely want to see more from Ed Oliver. But if you get the pass rush that you had against Mahomes or the pass rush you had against the Titans or the Rams in that game against Joe Burrow in the snow, you think we still lose that game?
With Vaughn?
just everybody healthy, man. Like if that D line is healthy going against that offensive line of the Bengals, do you think we see the same thing? Because I don't.
I don't know, man, because the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, they were on their second stringers, and I mean it was a mosh posh offensive line. They should have dominated that. But then you look in the back end, and you got DBs playing 7 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage consistently.
But who are those DBs? Like again, they were just so beat up last year that I understand Leslie Frazier saying, listen, we're going to run real basic defenses to make sure, one, we don't have any communication problems, two, that we don't get anybody torched over the top. I mean, other than Trey White, I mean, even Jordan Poyer, he was playing, he was not 100%. Everybody knows.
Right.
So, you know, Trey White was your closest thing to 100%, and he was coming off an ACL injury. You know,
yeah,
you were so beat up last year, and I know excuses, but I just felt like they had a better effort in them than what they actually put forth. And I think if you can get that defensive line mostly healthy into the playoffs this year, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, by the numbers last season, you know, the Bills had 40 sacks, right? The highest in the league was 70 by the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Bills are sitting there at top 10 in sacks. That's okay. I mean, that's good. You know, for how much money they spend on it, huh?
But do you have it split up by game?
I don't have it split up by game. I could probably find it.
I'm trying to find it, and I can't find it.
Okay, you find it, and I'll keep talking.
Okay.
So you look at the 40 sacks, and so, you know, Vaughn was well on his way to a double-digit sack season. Russo came close. So that's, I mean, if you really want to count it, let's just say that's 20 of your sacks. And then AJ Epinesa had, you know, 6.5, and then, you know, you kind of piecemeal the rest of it. They had 17 interceptions. So, you know, they had production. I mean, they're always in the top 5, right, defensively, but it's like when the chips are down, when it matters most. So, like, for instance, you mentioned the Kansas City game, which was great, but like I feel like that doesn't really do us any good in the regular season. When it's the playoffs, when the Bills lose in the playoffs, they're getting their butts kicked. You know, like the defense doesn't show up in those games, and so like you look at guys like Lou Anarumo for the Bengals, and you see like, okay, I know what he brings to the table schematically, week in and week out. You see Belichick and what he tries to do in his schemes and so forth. You know, you Robert Saleh to an extent, right? You see like their handprint, their thumbprint on these games, and I'm looking at the Bills defense, and I'm like, it's like we need everything to be right for them to like dominate against these top quarterbacks, and that's just not going to cut it for me.
I feel like that was true last year because of the injuries, and I'm having a hell of a time trying to find sacks by game. But I don't feel like that's true overall. Like, I feel like you have enough talent on that team that you don't necessarily have to say we need everything to be perfect to dominate. Now, I think for Leslie Frazier, he relied a lot on the talent he had on the field. And so when you play a more vanilla scheme, what you do is you're saying, I have superior athletes, and so I'm going to be able to beat you. And that was true before he had all the injuries, right? He had superior athletes, and he was beating people. But
right
after they started having all these injuries, all of a sudden, Joe Burrow puts up 27 points on you and doesn't blink. You know what I mean? So
right.
So with McDermott calling the defense this year, does he get more aggressive? Does he not lean on, you know, just the talent on the field and instead try to create mismatches by, you know, simulated pressures, stuff like that, where he's scheming guys to be more dominant rather than just relying on their athletic prowess?
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the themes of training camp that people that I trust with their analysis is saying that, you know, he is dialing up that kind of pressure with simulated pressures and getting Taron Johnson involved in blitzing, which he's really good at. Terrell Bernard, when he's in there, he's been, you know, shooting A-gaps and stuff like that, kind of like what Tremaine Edmonds did from time to time. You know, I just hope that I mean, I love an aggressive defense. Like, bring it, because pressure is going to create more turnovers, right? So, I mean, this Bills they were already good in terms of turning over the ball to an extent, but I expect it to get better with
Well, and
aggressive play calling.
I think if they're gonna run two linebackers, that you're gonna see a lot more blitzing. Because remember, when AJ Klein was filling in either for Milano or Edmonds, when he was in coverage, it was a disaster. But then all of a sudden, the Bills started using him and just firing off blitzes, and it turned out to be okay. And then when the quarterback didn't know if he was blitzing or dropping in coverage, his coverage got better too.
Yeah.
So, I think that was a little McDermott thing that you saw. I think you saw him sit down with Leslie and be like, here's what we can do to make this linebacker a more effective player for us.
For sure.
I think with, coverage skills decreased from Tremaine Edmonds to whoever fills that spot, that you'll see more aggressive play calling, especially by McDermott.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's going to be something that we're going to closely monitor this season. I think it's great that the Bills play the Jets week 1, because you get to see Aaron Rodgers, who's really good at picking up a blitz and getting rid of the ball. I mean, he has one of the quickest release times in the league. But you're going to have to, the Jets' offensive line isn't great, and they're going to have to make it uncomfortable for Aaron Rodgers. Even though if he's getting rid of the ball really quick, they're going to have to disguise those looks, and we'll get more into the schematic things that we get close to the season in a few weeks. But I want to see more aggression on defense, and I'm happy that Sean McDermott's from the Jim Johnson tree. So that's his MO, right? So to answer my own question that we're having is like, what advantage will Sean McDermott bring? What wrinkle that we know we can expect on game day? And we're going to say he's going to turn up the pressure. I hope that's the case, and I hope when we play quarterbacks like Mahomes and the top ones that's still the case.
Real quick, just to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find the game-by-game stats, but I went into the box scores. You said they had 40 sacks on the season?
Yeah.
They had 6 versus the Rams. Right? I mean,
I thought it was like 9 against the Rams. But
it's like 1/8 of your season sack production that you had.
That's terrible.
In the first game. You know what I mean? So when they were healthy, they were terrorizing people, and then the rest of the year, nothing.
Now, and as we close this topic, the Eagles had 70 sacks on the season, and would that get them? In the Super Bowl, they couldn't get anything. Now, the turf, there's a lot of conspiracy going on with the turf and that kind of stuff, and that matters for footing, etc. But the Eagles were terrorizing teams all season long. 70 sacks is a lot. They had, 5 guys over 10 sacks last season, at least 5.
And you saw it in the playoffs, too. I mean, they were all over San Francisco. They were all over
the Giants. They smoked the Giants.
So
yeah. Okay, so we're kind of doing it backwards, right? So we're going to stick with the defense. We're going to talk about training camp battles. Okay, so one of the biggest training camp battles from a fan point of view is the middle linebacker battle, right? And Tyrel Dodson, by reports, seems to be the guy that's going to be starting at middle linebacker as of right now. Before they play any preseason games, Tyrel Dodson has gotten more run with the first team than anybody else. So we saw Balen Spector get a day. We saw what's his name, Terrell Bernard get some run in there. Like, what? How do you? Are you okay with Tyrel Dodson being the middle linebacker? What's your thoughts when you hear those reports?
So the first report I remember seeing on it all at camp was that Balen Spector looked better than expected.
Right.
And I think when we get to preseason games that he is going to show out a little bit. Because, I don't know, I feel like he's one of those game players, you know what I mean? Not necessarily a practice player. If it is Tyrel Dodson, I don't know. I don't feel great about it. But like I said, I don't think you're going to see him on the field a whole lot. Like, even to cover tight ends and stuff like that, I think you're going to see an extra safety. I do not think you're going to see, Tyrel Dodson out there covering guys. So really you're just talking about, like, for sure rundowns or, run formations that they put him in on. And I just don't think you'll see that much of him. I could be wrong. They could be planning to do the same thing they did with Edmonds, where you've got a 2 linebacker set most of the time. But between Taylor Rapp and Saran Neal, I just think you're going to see an extra safety on the field, like a 3-3-5 maybe. I don't even know. Maybe not even that. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, that makes sense. I just feel like, and I guess, to your point, with Leslie Frazier not being here, maybe we do see more of those kind of hybrid fronts. It's still nickel defense, but Taylor Rapp's a big boy, right, for a safety, and he's super athletic. Tyrell Dodson, I think if he's out there, he's going to get picked on. So I think you're going to see quarterbacks, maybe check at the line and kind of get him in some uncomfortable situations. So if that's the case, why not just start Terrell Bernard there? You know what I'm saying? Because Terrell Bernard gives you more from a pass coverage standpoint. Now, when it comes to run fits and getting linemen off of you to fill a gap, I think that's probably where he's not as great. But look, man, I felt like Dorian Williams was going to get more play. Like, I was hoping when they drafted Dorian Williams, like, okay, he needs to be the freaking starter at middle linebacker. And they were like, okay, yeah, we're going to start him outside. And then they were like, he's going to play some middle. And then recently they're like, yeah, he's just going to be outside this season. So, when I think about Tyrell Dodson, it's just not a sexy name. Like, it's not like, I don't really want to hear Tyrell Dodson's my middle linebacker replacing Tremaine Edmonds.
Well, and I think that this goes overlooked a lot because we know how valuable he is as a pass rusher. But Vaughn can cover, man. Like, there was a lot of times when he was here in Denver that they would drop him back into coverage. In fact, one of their most famous plays was in the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady. And Vaughn's dropping back into coverage. You know what I mean? So I just think he provides you some options in terms of, if you have one of those guys on the field, can you fire a blitz from one side and drop Vaughn on the other? Is Vaughn better in coverage than Terrell Bernard? Maybe not. But is he better in coverage than Tyrell Dodson? But is he better in coverage than Tyrell Dodson?
I don't know. I would hope to say that Tyrell Dodson is a better in pass coverage than Von Miller. I'd want my man rushing the passer. But throw Taylor Rapp in there. Throw Taylor Rapp in there. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah, and like, we all know what a beast he is, but if he can still draw a double team on that line if they think he's coming. You know what I mean? Like, if he's lined up on the line and they think he's coming, he's still going to get a double team brought his way. And so then if you have Dodson blitzing off the other side, or Rapp, or Saran Neal, or Taron Johnson, or whoever, they're probably going to get just, one-on-one blocking. And if he drops out, he's still occupying those two guys, at least for the first second of the pass rush, even though he's not actually rushing. So I know what he's worth pass rushing. I just feel like he is a linebacker, not a defensive end. And you need to know that that's a possibility. That's something that he can.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think they're gonna try that. Hell, they even had Greg Rousseau in those situations, very similar to how the Broncos deployed Von Miller. But Greg Rousseau's 6'7". I mean, talking about taking away a pass lane, that dude could take away a pass lane really well. So you had Tremaine Edmonds at 6'5", lurking in the middle of the field. I mean, that dude's just long. So I think it's one of those things that I want to. I hope that they can, maybe Terrell Dodson, even though it's not the sexy name, maybe he can be the guy that we're just like, you know what, middle linebacker's good. Even though I would like to see Dorian Williams take that, but they're going to have him outside. But injuries happen, things change in the season. Maybe the light bulb turns on for Dorian Williams. I mean, he's 6'2" and he's athletic, right? So he should be able to supplement. If Milano goes down or play middle. I mean, it sounds like these guys are going to be interchangeable at linebacker, right? Because those two positions, they want matchup linebackers, what Brandon Beane said this offseason. So it's kind of hard to look at them like a Mike linebacker and a Will linebacker, right? Or strong side, however you want to play that. But I think there are going to be times where they're going to have to be in that 4-3 set, and run downs and run situations. You're not going to be able to sit in that nickel all the time. But I'm really curious to see how they deploy Taylor Rapp. I think that's going to be one of the underrated signings of the season. What Taylor Rapp can do. I mean, that dude should be a starter on somebody's squad, but I think it's going to be one of those situations where he's going to be the starter next year or the year after if they can sign him to a long-term deal. What do you think?
But I think that's the thing, right? Like, he's so much the X factor because all of those guys that you're talking about at the linebacker position are worse in coverage than Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
Theoretically, right?
Right.
So there's no passing down. Like, even if you're matching up against for example, the Broncos have Greg Dulcich, right? Dude does not block. He's coming in to catch a ball, right? So anytime that he's in, I don't want you to put Terrell Bernard in there, even though he's a good coverage linebacker, because he's not as good of a coverage guy as Rapp is. So I would rather have Rapp in there in like every situation. So yeah, listen, I mean, we know how much they love having their guys in camp and continuity and all that kind of stuff. I think you're right. I think if Rapp plays this year and plays well, that whenever these two have been all-time Bills safeties move on, I think they want him to slot right in there for sure.
And piggybacking off of that, let's talk about the CB2 position. You talk about not sexy. Having Dane Jackson as quarterback number 2 is not sexy. I appreciate Dane, like, for real. Like, he's good. Like, but man, you drafted Kaiir Elam, and it's just like I need him to be CB2. And the crazy thing is, like, it'd be one thing if, like, when he was in the game, he didn't impact the game, and he's a first round pick, and he's still trying to learn and figure it out, which that's true to an extent in terms of him figuring out how to play zone defense, where he needs to be, where he's going to shade, and where he's going to drop, and those kind of things, right? But man, like, when he's in the game, he impacts the game. Right, we think it plays like the interception in Kansas City, the playoff game against the Dolphins. He was he played well. I felt like he was the best player on the field on defense in the Cincinnati game. It's like, okay, why can't they just say, you know what, Kaiir, you're the guy?
I feel like he hasn't been consistent enough is the answer to your question, and they don't just want to hand it to him. I heard he played really great at the scrimmage, which is definitely
okay. That's good, because I didn't know. I didn't even hear about it, and anybody talk about him. So
I heard they said the article I read said he took hold of the CB2 position, which is great. Listen, I like Dane Jackson, and it's important that your third corner is at least starting caliber quality in the NFL these days, because you're going to get an injury. You're going to need to run 3 corners out there, sometimes 4 maybe.
Yeah.
So, they have Taron Johnson for the slot, but it's important that your third outside corner is at least good enough. And Dane Jackson is good enough. But yeah, Kaiir Elam absolutely has to be a first-round pick. And it's the same thing we're talking about with Ed Oliver. You know what I mean? And Oliver we're frustrated with because he is a couple years into it. But Kaiir Elam, we're now getting to that spot where we're saying, hey, man, first-round pick. Let's go. You know what I mean? Let's go.
Right.
Take that job.
Yeah. And so it's like so I'm like, okay, is it coach speak? Like, they're like, well, Kaiir needs to be more consistent at practice, and we Dane, and they do it the right way. That's so Sean McDermott. That's so Sean. Like, he says stuff like that. And you got, okay, so you drafted Kaiir Elam knowing that he was primarily a man corner, the University of Florida, and you're bringing him into a zone heavy scheme. But like, when you deployed him in man coverage, he was outstanding. I mean, we've heard it in training camp when they've had those drills in man coverage. Kaiir Elam is shutting shit down. Like, you want to hear? That's what I want to hear. Now, I know everything is in man coverage, but look, you're gonna have to. I think one of the gripes I had with the Bills defense last season was there was too much zone. It was too much. Like, you need Tre'Davious White and Kaiir Elam can play man. Like, they should have played or had to have played man. They did in Kansas City, but like in the playoffs, I need you to man up on these guys. And we saw Kaiir Elam make a tremendous play on Tyreek Hill, a tremendous play. Like, take the freaking gloves off and let this man play.
But it all kind of, like, the tea leaves all read the same way, right? The puzzle pieces all kind of fit together. Because Kaiir is a man corner, no doubt.
Right.
Trey can play man. You know what I mean? Just because he's been in his own scheme all these years
Right.
and been great
Right.
doesn't mean the kid can play man. And so when you do that, you add another coverage safety in wrap.
Right.
You get Micah Hyde back who can cover in man. What does that all tell you? Are we going to start being more aggressive? We hear Micah Hyde say it in camp, right?
Right. Right.
It just screams like we're going to start blitzing people and really try to take advantage of this whole other side to the talent of the guys on our team that we haven't been taking advantage of because we've been running such a zone heavy scheme.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of potential there. And if you can constantly be switching back and forth, if your communication and talent is good enough to switch back and forth between a zone scheme and a man scheme and keep those quarterbacks guessing as to what it is they're going to see, I think you're going to be way more successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we're putting a button on the defense for now. Let's switch our attention and focus to the offense, okay? Man, listen, I've been swooning over Dalton Kincaid in this offense, man. When they picked him, I was a little surprised that they went tight end, seeing that you re-upped on Dawson Knox, and you paid him a handsome salary, and you didn't use him, and then you go out and you get Dalton Kincaid. But everything that we're hearing is that this dude is balling. Now, he did have a drop in the red and blue game that, but there was that's his only drop of the offseason that has been open to the public. I mean, the dude's just been making plays. So it's part of me is like this. By the way, he is on my fantasy squad, but he's not starting.
There we go. Now
he's not starting. He's not starting. Hold on. Okay. So before we get into realistic expectations for Dalton Kincaid, because I'm going to have a very hot take about Dalton Kincaid on this show in a few minutes, but I want give me your feelings about Dalton Kincaid in this offense.
My feelings are we're about to fight because you're not going to like what I have to say. Listen, man.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Listen, I am fortunate enough to have talked to a couple of NFL tight ends over my years of doing sports talk radio. Mm-hmm. And every single tight end that I talk to say it does not get credit enough for being the hardest position to transition from college to the NFL to. It is the number one most difficult position to translate to. Now,
sure.
I think the Bills went into the first round this year thinking we need to get another weapon. And I think they wanted to draft a wide receiver. We all know their contract status with all their wide receivers and how much trouble they could be in next year or the year after in terms of who they have as wide receivers.
Okay.
So I think they wanted a wide receiver. I just think when they got to their pick, Dalton Kincaid was clearly better than every wide receiver on the board. And they're hoping that as a weapon, that makes a difference.
Right.
Now, remember last year with O.J. Howard, they wanted to run 2 tight end sets. And so you're saying they didn't really use Knox. I think a portion of their playbook got thrown out when O.J. Howard turned out to be trash. And they just didn't want to run as many 2 tight end sets as they were expecting that they were going to run. And that hurt Knox's production. So I think you will see more 2 tight end sets this year. I think you will see Knox's production go up because whoever is the best coverage linebacker or safety might not be on Knox anymore. He might be on Kincaid. All that said, I think Kincaid ends up with 300 yards and 30 catches.
Okay. All right.
I don't think he comes in and lights the world on fire.
Okay.
It is a really hard position to translate to the NFL. That said, I think you could see Knox.
Okay, so you're predicting an uptick in Knox's production, which is based off of what you're saying. That's very fair. That's it could happen. Here's where I'm coming from. Okay, and there might be some fandom in here or some wishing. Okay, there's some wishing in here, but as much film as I watch, I went back and watched a lot of Dalton Kincaid's games. I watched 3 or 4 games in the pre-draft process just because, there was a buzz that the Bills could draft a tight end or whatever. And I was like, I don't see it. But when you turn on the tape and you see this guy play, you're like, damn, he doesn't look like a rookie. Like everything you hear, he doesn't. He has the so like when I look at Dawson Knox coming into the league, he was very unpolished. His blocking, he couldn't block that much. His route running, his athleticism stood on tape. You saw he had some like his hands were good, like he had good hands. But like when you turn on the tape and you watch Kincaid cut in and out of breaks, right? You see the smoothness in his route running. You see him just the way he catches the ball, like this is a tight end high pointing balls, catching it on the seam. Like, he was the focal point of that offense in Utah, and you're going like, okay. Like we've seen remember there was a time in the last 10, 15 years where wide receivers, it was going to take 2 to 3 years for a wide receiver to actually produce. That was the expectation. Now you see these hybrid tight ends that are starting to come in the league. I think we're going to see something like we're going to be talking about this next year with Brock Bowers. So get ready. But I think that Dalton Kincaid. So you have, Dawson Knox kind of doing the dirty work for tight end, right? I feel like the way they're gonna use Dalton Kincaid, he's not gonna have to do all that dirty work coming in. So I think when you have Diggs, you got Davis. Like I think that Kincaid can be that second or third option in this offense. So just like you predict 30 catch, would you say 30 catches, 300 yards?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the man's gonna have 45 to 50 catches and about 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like for a tight end in this offense, like that's me being a homer partly, but it's just like when you watch this dude play, how can you not come away and go, damn, he totally can do that.
I hope you're right. And don't get me wrong, that the USC game, it's teach tape. Like he was great in college and he's got some beautiful tape. No doubt. That being said, there's one NFL guy and 3 XFL guys on that field. I mean, come on, right? Like
for sure.
He's not playing
in the Mountain
SEC.
West.
Yeah.
Or Pac-12, right?
But he's not playing in the SEC, right? So yeah, it looks really good. But even going against these guys in camp, he's going. How often do you see best on best in camp? You normally see the number 1 offense versus the number 2 defense, which means he's going against backups. Now listen, if Ken Dorsey, and I think Ken Dorsey needs to improve a little bit, but if Ken Dorsey can scheme him open sometimes, yeah, we can see what you're saying. But I think what the 2 tight end set is going to do is it's going to bring more people on the field who are bad at coverage. And I think the worst cover guy is going to be on Dawson Knox, not on Kincaid.
Oof.
Right?
I don't know.
If you're a defensive guy and you're just going, because they see what we see, right? Right now, they see what we see. So, if you're the Jets and you're scouting how to play Dalton Kincaid week 1, you're saying, I need to put somebody who can cover on him. Right? More than you would say that about Knox. So, and I think to that point, it also then puts your third best cover guy on whoever's coming out of the backfield.
Right.
Hello, James Cook. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think that might be close to the best year Dawson Knox has ever had.
Yeah, no.
You throwing out, what was it, almost 700 yards and 45 catches?
Yeah, 45 catches.
I'm trying to look real quick to see if I can find Dawson's stats, but that might be the best year that Dawson Knox has ever had. And you're saying he's going to do it as a rookie?
Yeah, it's like I said before I even went there. I said it could be very hot takey, right? So if I were to say 45 catches divided by 17, he needs to have 2.5 catches a game.
It would be better than any season Dawson Knox has ever had. His 2 best years are 49 catches for 587 yards in 21 and 48 catches for 517 yards last year. And you're saying he's going to do that as a rookie?
I'm saying he's going to do that as a rookie. Hot take. As a rookie. Dawson Knox will get outplayed by Dalton Kincaid statistically.
That might be true. But I just don't think he's going to have better numbers than Dawson Knox has ever had.
Well, you know what? Crazy things happen in this league. I think it's doable. I think it's doable, man. You know, there's a lot. So we're running out of time here, okay? So you're gonna have to come on the show next week because we're gonna have to talk about James Cook, right? And we should have the conversation about Gabe Davis. I could be wrong on some stuff about Gabe based off of the reports that I had, but I'm in a show me stage with Gabe. So let's and we'll talk about the Bills preseason game from this coming Saturday, right? So we're going to see the Bills in action this week on Saturday. Oh, who are they playing on Saturday? The Colts. I think that's Anthony Richardson should. I would love to see him get a couple snaps. Yeah, so that's going to be. That's going to be
about that, but
yeah, right. Because you know they're talking about they're going to have him being a starter. So you might want to just throw him out there as much as you can. Barring, obviously you don't want him to get injured, but yeah, you got to throw him out there, man. See what he's got, and unless he just got it all wrapped up and you're just going to roll him out there week one. But I'd throw him out there. But so we get to see that this week, which is going to be pretty dope in and of itself. But before we get up out of here, so you know what I just did there, right? Basically, I just told you that you're going to have to join me on the show next week. You're going to have to join me on the show next week. But yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate you even wanting me back. It means a lot to me.
You're my dog. What are you talking about, dude? Like, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about in the bar, right? Before games. And these are conversations you and I've had over the years. This is just in podcast form, right? So we need to get Dave on here too. I'm gonna get Dave on here. Dave's gonna get a little crazy, but we'll see. But before we go, why don't you tell our listeners how they can find you on Twitter and about what your schedule, kind of talk about Altitude Sports.
So you can find me pretty much everywhere at Rob T Radio. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook if you want it, Snapchat, all that good stuff. I'm also on Twitch. It's /Rob Trigilio, but you can find links to that on my other social media, so you don't have to try to spell my last name. And man, I fill in whenever they need me on Altitude Sports Radio. I just did the morning show on Friday, so you can just look out on social media and find out when I'm on there. But you're gonna have to listen to me talk about Denver sports. And I don't know if you want to hear me talk about the
hey, man, if I could listen to you all day, dog, I would, man. That's the love I have for you right now.
Hey, I appreciate you inviting me on. It means a lot. I really do.
Well, it was great, man. This is Rob, my guy. You can call him Dubs. I call him Knucklehead, or I call him very expletive things, not on radio or on a podcast form. I call him other things that I really shouldn't say around children, but we'll save that for later. But anyway, man, you've been listening to the Intentional Grounding podcast. Man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Make sure that you guys, if you're on Buffalo Rumblings, make sure you give us a follow. Like all my stuff, you're going to see more content from me coming, articles, etc., NFL draft and all that. But thank you for watching tonight's show, and we're going to be back next week. Again, we're going to be talking some Gabe Davis. We're going to go over the preseason game, and you guys have a blessed week, and we out of here.